Welcome back to the V.O.C. YouTube channel. Back home in Cass for this video for the weekend. I got my hair cut. You can tell I got my hair cut because now my head looks 1,000 times bigger than what it usually does. I have a very large head, and that's the only reason I hate getting haircuts, is it makes my head look gigantic, which it is. It's hair. It grows. I wear a hat most of the time, but I mean, that's one of the reasons I came home, you know. So let's get into it. All right, let's get into it. So there's a lot going on. I think we continue to see the dominoes fall, the pendulum to swing on this season, and how everything is moving forward. I think in college football, the storylines are really starting to play out a little bit. So to jump into it, I thought this was kind of an interesting stat. This is the first time Clemson's been unranked since 2014. They just had a close game with Boston College, where Boston College could easily have scored and possibly won the game if they wouldn't have fumbled on the 10-yard line. They kind of threw it away a little bit, but you know, the ACC is wide open. I think it's slowly been talked about, I think, the last few years of how bad the ACC really is. But it's like Clemson's been the top dog. They get there to the championships and to the playoffs. So ACC's not terrible. You know, they get a guy in there. I think this year you're starting to see just how bad the ACC has been, and how I think Clemson covered up a lot for that conference. And now Clemson's not covering it up. Clemson's getting hurt by that conference. Alabama and Georgia, I said it last week, I will continue to say it. I don't think there's two teams that can compete with them. They literally just destroyed, and not just destroyed, they kicked the ass off of Ole Miss, who Alabama played, and Arkansas. Alabama won 42-21, wasn't even close. That score's like, oh, it's 21 points. Clearly, game wasn't close. I think at one point Alabama was up 28-0, 35-0. They blew the doors off Ole Miss, kicked their ass. And I was one of them. Was like, I didn't think Ole Miss would beat them, but I thought Ole Miss could cover, which was 14.5. Clearly, I was obviously wrong on that one. But Alabama, it's Alabama. Georgia destroyed Arkansas. They beat them 37-0. I thought Georgia would win. I thought Georgia would win big. I think Georgia was 17-point favorite in that game. So I thought they'd cover, but they completely destroyed Arkansas, who they've been a really good team this year. They've been really hot. They were top 10. They just beat Texas A&M. And Georgia did with their backup quarterback, Stetson Bennett, who was terrible last year, he played last year, started for me. I was like, oh, Georgia, why are you putting this bum out there on the field? He was much better. But they ran the ball. And it wasn't that he played completely great and he's all this. They ran the ball. They pounded the fucking ball down Arkansas's throats. And Georgia was like, look, this is what we're going to do with this guy. We have JT Daniels. He was banged up. He didn't play. I'm not even going to say why he didn't play. I don't remember. It might have been back, leg, arm. Something hurt on his body. I don't know. But they destroy Arkansas. So the case, like I said in the first video I made, is I think Georgia's the number one team. I will continue to make that case until I'm proven wrong. Because their defense might be the best defense we've seen. I don't know. You go back to Ohio State's defense a couple years ago when they got hoed out of the game against Clemson. You go to the Alabama defenses, 2012, 11, that team was good. This Georgia defense might be better than both those teams. And both those defenses were really good. Georgia, to me, right now is still number one, and then Alabama is a close second. And, if Georgia doesn't play as great against some teams, down the stretch, you can clearly put them in and out 1 and 2. But right now, I think Georgia's number one. All right, we're going to Notre Dame. Look, I thought going into this year, there was no way that Notre Dame was going to make the playoffs, was going to go undefeated. I thought Notre Dame, and this is me being a conscious fan, and people would say, you're lying, you're just backing your track. I'm not. I'm being dead ass serious when I say this shit. I thought Notre Dame, Notre Dame, would win 8 games, maybe 9. I just didn't see it this year. There was just not... I didn't really like the quarterback situation. I saw what Jack Cohen was at Wisconsin. Wasn't very good. He's not going to win you anything. He's going to lose you more than he's going to win for you. And, I think that's clearly what we saw with the Cincinnati game. Now, Cincinnati is better than Notre Dame. And people are going to say, well, you're going to say Cincinnati. Yeah, Cincinnati is better than Notre Dame this year. They truly are. Cincinnati is a playoff team, maybe question marks. Cincinnati's that good. Watching them play, went to the game, watching them play there, there's something different about that team. They have speed, they have size, they have a quarterback who doesn't give a fuck and just goes out there and big dick slinging, walking around, I'm this, I'm here, hide your kids, hide your wife. That's what Desmond Ridder kind of was. It was like he didn't give a shit about anything. He was like, look, we're the better team. We know that. And we're going to go in here and we're going to beat you. And they did. That's how they played. They played with a confidence that you wouldn't think Cincinnati played with. And that was put on display in that game. Now, Notre Dame did some good things in that game later in the game than they did earlier in the game. They didn't match Cincinnati's energy. I don't think they quite knew what this Cincinnati team fully was going to be. I think when you play a team like Cincinnati, you don't know, okay, is this team, really legit, or do they just play bad teams? No, this Cincinnati team's legit. So I think with the way that the dominoes are kind of falling, and we continue to see how this is such a chaotic college football season, Cincinnati could easily make the playoff. And I think that if you did a college football committee selections, whatever the fuck those things are that they do, I think that you could see... I think that there would be an argument that Cincinnati would probably be 4. You could definitely make the argument that Cincinnati would be 4. Now, I get that there's good teams in front of them. I think they moved up to... I should have wrote this shit down. Never prepared. They moved up to 5, which I thought would happen. They play Temple this week. They should destroy them. They play Temple tomorrow. They should destroy them. They should. Not saying that they will, but they should. But no, I think the moral of that story was Notre Dame's not as good as they are this year. They're really young. But they did some things where I was like, okay, that's not terrible. But there's still a lot that they need to figure out. But they're young, they'll grow. So I think as a Notre Dame fan standpoint, it's like, the future of this team looks really good. They should be really formidable in the next 2 to 3 years with all the talent that they're playing. Cincinnati, playoff team, potentially. If everything continues to lay out and they just go and they just steamroll everybody else and they continue down the path of, if they beat teams by 20, they beat teams by 30 like they should, I think you could make an argument as a playoff team. The Notre Dame quarterback situation, look, Brian Kelly, to me, is playing the wrong quarterback, and I think he doesn't fully think that he is. I think it's one of those where he truly believes that Jack Cohen is the right guy, and he still is not named a starting quarterback as of me filming this right now, Thursday night. And being in the press conference, watching him up close talk about it, I got the feeling it was like, look, we didn't play Jack in the rest of the game because he wasn't giving us enough for this game, but moving forward, we still believe he's the best quarterback on the roster to win us games. I personally don't believe that. That's just how I personally feel. I think that Tyler Buchner is not ready. I think that's clear. I think everybody gets that he's not ready. And when he comes in the game, he does read option, but he just holds it the whole time. You got to give it to the running back a little bit to kind of open it up. But I think after watching the 3 quarterbacks play in person, what the energy brought to the stadium, to the team, Drew Pine's a quarterback. Why not play the kid that learned under Ian Book, sat under Ian Book last year, would text Ian Book in the middle of the night about plays, the kid that kind of plays like Ian Book, and I was never the biggest Book fan. He would frustrate me so much sometimes. He would. But at the end of the day, the guy won games when he needed to. And to me, Drew Pine's that gamer. He is that guy that doesn't care. He goes out there, he plays, he's confident in himself, he gets excited, and he bottles it, and it works. The stadium literally told everybody that last week. When Drew Pine started the second half, everybody cheered. Tyler Buckner came in for a play, everybody booed. Drew Pine came in then the next play, and the crowd went stupid. And he gave that team life. He brought them within of like, oh shit, they possibly could maybe win this game. It didn't happen, but he gave you that feeling of like, okay, something could happen. This guy could do it. You know, anything is possible. So I think I look at it right now, and just as a fan perspective and how the games have kind of played out, Drew Pine should be the quarterback moving forward. Do I think he'll be the quarterback moving forward? No. I think Kelly will go back to Jack Cohen, and we'll sit here and we'll discuss, next week about how they potentially lost to Virginia Tech, or it was a close one to Virginia Tech. I think they'll beat Virginia Tech. I don't think they'll lose to Virginia Tech. I hope they don't lose to Virginia Tech. I think they bounce back and they beat them, even though they play them on the road. It's a close game. It's basically a pick 'em. I think they'll win, but I think we'll be sitting here just scratching our heads like, why do we have a statue playing quarterback? I mean, that is basically what it is. Jack Cohen is a fucking statue playing quarterback. He just is. Just is. Some big games this week, some very interesting games this week. I highlighted three big ones. The Red River rivalry, that's really fucking tough to say. Red River rivalry. I can't even say that. I can't even say rivalry. Right. How am I supposed to work in this business? I can't even say words. Oklahoma, Texas. This game, to me, is one of my favorite games of the year. I think when you have the biggest rivalry game for a team in the middle of the year, I think it is awesome. I think it brings a different feel to the game. They play at a neutral site at the Cotton Bowl, old Cotton Bowl. I think, this is one of those games where it's like anything can happen at any given time, especially like with the way that the Big 12 is. It's like anything can literally happen at any given time. Oklahoma's a 3-point favorite. Oklahoma hasn't played well. They haven't. Spencer Rattler got benched last year in this game. He's not played particularly the greatest. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Texas wins this game. I don't know by how much, but I think Texas wins it. I think Texas wins it because I think everything Oklahoma's had coming up into this year is going to come back and bite them in the ass. And I think Texas lost their one game early. And I think they're playing better. So I like Texas, but I think it's one of those games, like, it can go either way. I'll lean towards Texas. This is the fact it's Sark's first game against Oklahoma. Doesn't know what to doesn't really care, like, whatever. He's never lost to him. He has no fear in them. Oklahoma hasn't played particularly well. So I'm going to lean towards Texas on this one. Texas has a great running game. Bijan Robinson, beast. That kid is a beast. That's one of those guys that comes into the lunch table, takes your fucking money, and you don't say anything. You just sit there, you stare at him, you say, yes, yes, and you, like, give him everything. And every day of the week, it happens. That's Bijan Robinson. Kid's a beast. Oklahoma, Ole Miss. This is the ass-kicked bowl, in my opinion. Not my opinion, this is the ass-kicked bowl. Both teams just got their asses handed to them last week. Literally destroyed. It's at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a 5.5-point favorite. I'm going to go Ole Miss. I think Arkansas, I said this a couple weeks ago, I think Arkansas's fairy tale season's over. I said that a couple weeks ago, and then they beat A&M. I really think it's over. I think that losing to Georgia in the way that they did, it felt different because it felt like one of those where it was just like, that could literally have just taken everything out of a team. I think that's what it is. Ole Miss's loss is like, well, we're not as good as Alabama, and we're not as good as we thought we were. We have a lot to work on, and Lane's going to get his team ready to go. Lane talked a lot of shit leading up to that game. He knows it. Everybody knows it, and he didn't back it up. And so I think they bounce back this week, and I think they win. I think Ole Miss beats Arkansas. The last game I'll talk about, the biggest game. This is the biggest game of the week. You can make an argument that this potentially could be the biggest game not being a conference championship game. As of right now, it is. Now, there's a lot of things that could happen. If Michigan State keep winning, their game could be really big. You have, if Ohio State continues to win, Michigan continues to win, that could be a big game. But as of right now, we know that this game is a 3 versus 4 matchup. It is going to be a game that has so much impact on how the rest of this season plays out that I think it's being overlooked. I truly do. Game day is going to the Oklahoma-Texas game. Are you stupid? Are you stupid? What brains do you have to say, there's a 3 versus 4 matchup. We're not going to go to it. What? Are you, stupid? Are you stupid? If I was an Iowa fan, which I'm not, clearly I'm not, if I was, I'd be mad. Why would you not go to the game? This is the biggest game in a long time. And you're like, we're going to... Look, I get why they're going... I literally get why they're going to the Oklahoma-Texas game. Look, they got the Oklahoma-Texas game on ABC at noon. They're going to lead into it. I get it. I get the logistics, and this is how business works. You want more people to watch it. And they don't have the Iowa-Penn State game. But you go to the biggest games. You don't go because, blah, 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 this is what we have programming. No, you go to the biggest fucking games. And you're not. Now, we'll be on to the game here. My hatred towards ESPN. If you know me, you know. This game is huge. Iowa looks really good. Penn State has looked really good. This is one of those games where it's like a collision. It's like a superhero movie. It's like the build-up of the superhero. We've seen the build-up, the villain come in. This is the big matchup. I like Penn State a lot. I've watched more Iowa than I have Penn State. I'm pretty sure the last time Penn State lost, I think both teams are on pretty decent winning streaks from last year. The last time Penn State lost was to Iowa. I like Penn State's team, but I'm leaning more towards Iowa for some reason. I don't know if it's because I'm going out on a limb. Iowa's looked really, really good. They just destroyed, I'm pretty sure they played Maryland. Don't quote me. And I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's like they're 1.5 point favorite. They're at home. I like Kurt Ferentz as their coach. The question is, does Iowa have the athletes Penn State has? I don't know. But I'm going to go Iowa here. I'm going to pick Iowa. I'm not going to sit here and keep trying to... I like Iowa to win this game. I think Iowa has a shot to potentially make the playoff. And... because their side of the Big Ten is atrocious. Atrocious. So, even if they lose this game, I think they still make the Big Ten championship. They lose this game, they should make the Big Ten championship, even if they lost. I don't think they'll lose. Even if they did lose, they could still, because their side of the Big Ten is atrocious. Penn State's side of the Big Ten is not atrocious. You have potentially on that side alone 4 top 10 teams. You could make an argument, I would, that you have 4 top 10 teams. But going back to the main point is like, look, Penn State's side of the Big Ten is way harder. And the crazy thing is, with their side being so much harder, Iowa could be the best Big Ten team that they play. I mean, and they play them this week. Like I said, I like Penn State's team a lot, but I'm leaning more towards Iowa. It's just a gut feeling. I could be completely wrong with all 3 of these game picks. Call me crazy. I like to think outside the box. I think Iowa wins against Penn State. It's close, but I think Iowa wins. I think Ole Miss beats Arkansas, 10 points or more. And I think Texas beats Oklahoma. I'll go a touchdown on that game. I'd go like 38-31, Texas, Oklahoma. I would go 34-21, Arkansas, Ole Miss. I think Penn State, Iowa's probably a low scoring game. I would go with 21-17 Iowa. I think that's a very Iowa Big Ten score. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. You know, this season is nuts. This season is crazy. We've seen nothing but chaos, and I think we'll continue to see chaos, and it's going to be really fun to watch. This is one of the funner, is that even a word, college football seasons in a long time. Thanks for watching.